That's right, folks. Stay inside if you can, anywhere in the gray area. There's a reason for that. Cold rain doesn't just draw random thumbnails. I'm not going to give you oh wow or get ready or new info every third day. We're going to do something here that actually is fun, a little bit clever, and it actually means something. So I'm going to give you my best. On the thumbnails, I'll give you the best weather info that I can give you. Actionable information as well, because you need to know what's going on. You also need to know what action to take as a result of it. And that's the promise that I make for you here, folks. You're not always going to maybe like the forecast, but you're going to be smarter by the end of the show. We've got all the weather coming up, including tropical weather, and we've got interesting activity going on out here in the tropics, and they may just be waking up, and I'll show you why that is as we move on into August. We've got severe weather to talk about, and of course the big story is the heat. It's here. Heat indexes are going up. Chickens are laying fried eggs. It's so hot, folks, so get a plate ready. We've got a lot to put on it this morning, and that is what when I'm recording it this morning anyway. You may be watching it this afternoon or this evening, but we've got a lot to get into, folks, and there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel in terms of temperatures. We're going to get into all of it starting right now with your tropical weather outlook. We're working on toward the end of July. As we get into August, we should start to see some tropical activity emerge and business pick up out here in the Atlantic. Right now, we're seeing a few waves of low pressure move off the coast of Africa out here in our main development region, which is right here. We've got another system up here, and we've got another system working through the Gulf. The National Hurricane Center is actually watching this system over here, and we're going to take a look at that here in a bit as well. But more activities moving off the coast of Africa. One thing that we need to note, you can't really see it showing up, but I'll tell you this area here up to the north of our main development region is dry air that's coming off of Africa. We've got a high pressure ridge out here just sort of trapping that air in place, and over time we expect that to moisten up, and certainly there are some signs that the tropics are waking up as we get on into August, and we're going to take a look at why that is the case in just a minute. Here is that system in the Gulf, kind of disorganized. I don't see really a large or any kind of compact circulation here on satellites. Matter of fact, it's difficult to make out any circulation at all, and the convection is kind of ragged here, as you can see. So not looking imminent in terms of development. Looking what the National Hurricane Center says, they've got their lemon here still in place, 10% chance of formation in the next 7 days. But this thing is not going to sit in the Gulf for the next 7 days. It's actually moving this way, and it's going to get into Texas, and it does not look like it's going to stall out this time. So that's good news for you folks in Texas. It's going to move across. But that is the only area of interest so far. That one little system we saw up here in the northern central Atlantic could develop into a storm and steal a name, but it doesn't look all that likely at this point. Either way, it's going to be moving north and northeast, eventually out over open waters. The European ensembles, we're looking at the European ensembles. They're the best ensemble suite that's out there in terms of accuracy. And as we move this along over the next 7 days, look at this. This is the probability of one of these waves developing into a tropical cyclone, not necessarily a storm, but it could be a depression, and we're seeing fairly decent probabilities out here in the central Atlantic. Probabilities getting up into the 60-70% range. So over time, we're seeing these probabilities start to increase, and of course, a little bit of a lesser chance here in the Gulf, but still a chance. And then this one up here, it's giving a fairly high chance of development. I'm not sure about that, but we'll see. It's kind of getting up here into cooler waters. In any event, we're going to be watching this region out here in the central Atlantic, and of course this region over in the Gulf, although my expectation is this does not develop. It's just not going to have enough time, more than likely. Now, I said earlier that we're going to be picking up as we get on into August. One of those reasons is climatology, and it's just you tend to see more hurricanes develop the later on into the season that we get. But here's another reason too. This is the MJO, Madden-Julian Oscillation. It's an area of convection that moves from the Indian Ocean out into the Pacific Ocean, and that's what we're seeing over the course of the next several days to a couple of weeks. We're seeing that westward propagation at a fairly slow pace, and we move out of phase 8. We look at this a lot of time in the winter time to get an idea of the pattern. This area of convection down there influences the weather pattern by influencing the jet stream, and the jet stream influences our weather here. troughs, ridges, storminess, dryness, all of that comes out of how the jet stream is configured and the Madden-Julian oscillation. We don't live in a vacuum, but it's one of the components that helps to influence the jet stream, and that can increase or decrease shear out in the Atlantic. And when you start to move into phase 2, toward phase 2, this is phase 2 down here. You see this quadrant here, this is phase 2. When you start to get this pulse right here, here it is, moving on into phase 2, it's right here right now, that's the forecast. And then you start to see a much better Atlantic in terms of conditions being more favorable for tropical development. Plus, if it's moving slow, and down here toward this circle, it's moving fairly slow. So we're here right in phase 6, but we're moving over toward phase 2 as we go on out in time over the next couple of weeks. So that will put us in toward August. We'll start to watch a more favorable Atlantic emerge, more than likely. So that's what's going on with the tropics, folks. We'll keep you posted as we go on out in time. But now we've got to look in on that severe weather because we have some potential for wind and hail, and again, tornado or two this afternoon and tomorrow. But before we do that, I've got to test your weather IQ. I told you I'd leave you smarter, and if you don't know the answer to this one, you will by the end of the show. But here is today's question related to fall, because we're all looking forward to fall, or many of us are. What type of weather system often brings clear skies and cooler temperatures during the fall? A low pressure system, a barometric filament, a cold front, or a mesoscale vortex? If you know the answer, type it in the comments. If you don't, just wait until the end of the show, and I will tell you at the end what the answer was and why. Hey, before we get into the severe weather outlook, just to give you a little bit of a peek behind the curtain in terms of what I'm doing with the show, you've seen these things kind of pop up, but I've broken the show out into segments, and we'll keep those compartmentalized, like the tropical update, severe weather outlook, weekend forecast, beach forecast, what have you. And I keep those into segments so we can break those into chapters and you can kind of skip to where you need to go. And I've also added crawlers across the screen too. You've seen those too. We've got a traveler's forecast where we show different conditions for different cities around the country. That'll pop up here in a little bit. Also have convective outlooks and tropical outlooks from the Hurricane Center and the Storm Prediction Center with the convective outlook. You see that crawling right now, but I take that data, put it in here, and let it go so I don't have to read it. You can read it if you want to. Good information for you to have. And we also do a this day in weather history. That'll go across the top of the screen in a little bit. Gives you an idea of something that happened, you know, a little fun fact about what happened in history a while back. So I hope that's enjoyable to you. If you got any suggestions, comments, questions, let me know. Put it in the comments section. Certainly, if there's anything I can be in prayer about, let me know that as well. And I will definitely do that. Like the video, subscribe, share it with friends and family. We're growing rapidly, and thank you to that, for watching the show and providing your support to me. I really appreciate that. It means a lot, and sincerely thank you for it. Now, severe weather out there this afternoon, we're going to see it in a few spots. Fortunately, not as ubiquitous as it has been over the last several days. We're getting a little bit of a break, maybe, but this morning we've got clouds and showers and thunderstorms around quite a bit here in the central plains area. These higher cloud tops represent where the rain is falling most robustly. We've got a nice big monsoonal flow into the Four Corners region, brought some flooding into New Mexico yesterday. That extends along a frontal boundary that is now on the move, attached to a low pressure center up here in Canada that will be approaching the Northeast. And out ahead of that, you folks in the Northeast, that it's been nice and dry. Well, we're getting humid, hot air coming back in, and there's that system in the Gulf and bringing some showers off the coast of Louisiana. You can see that on the radar image. Rain stretching from Wisconsin all the way back down into southeast Iowa around Cedar Rapids, back into northwest Missouri near St. Joseph's, and then back in here toward Wichita, Kansas. And that's where the most of the rain is this morning. Severe threat this afternoon, really from Michigan back down through the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, back up again into the lee of the Rockies, where we've got a differential heating boundary that'll set up and be the focus for showers and thunderstorms. Anywhere in this light green, you could see general thunderstorm shower activity, but in the marginal area, maybe even upgraded to a slighter risk if we start to see evidence that a line segment will form and move through. But definitely wind is a possibility, isolated to widely scattered severe thunderstorms. Tornadoes, we could see a tornado or two. Don't let your guard down, but it's not looking like a widespread tornado event. Wind is the primary threat, and hail back over in the west and up in Wisconsin Wisconsin, where lapse rates are a bit better and hail production will be a bit better. Tomorrow, North Dakota and New England, at least southern New England, the eastern sections of it down into the northern mid-Atlantic, is favored for widely scattered severe weather. Now, the frontal boundary that's moving in, if it hangs up a little bit and allows instability to build, we could see a greater threat up here in New England. We'll watch that tomorrow, so keep your eyes to the sky in the northeast tomorrow if you've got plans. Tornadoes, again, not much of a threat. Wind and hail is the primary threat. I would not be surprised to see the wind threat increase up in here in the northeast. There is your future radar. As we go on out through the morning, you can see that batch of showers kind of dissipate, but then look what happens over the southeast as we approach 1, 2 o'clock. Thunderstorms firing up here through the Great Lakes, and again on the lee of the Rockies, we're seeing those thunderstorms fire up there as well. And then everything kind of grows in coverage as we work toward evening, and then instability will eventually die out as we lose the heating of the day. There's that boundary. You can see that showing up right nicely here through the Central Plains, back to the panhandle of Texas, up the lee of the Rockies, right in our threat area. That's where the thunderstorms are forming. This model is forecasting that very well. And then heavy rain in Louisiana as we go through the day. So any of those thunderstorms could merge into clusters and form a brief wind threat, and potentially a little bit of heavy rain back here in Kansas. And that's what we got going on today. That will eventually dissipate, and we get on into Friday morning, Friday afternoon. We started all over again. There's your front now pushing into New England, stretching back through the Ohio Valley. Anywhere south of that front, it's going to be hot and humid, and particularly along the Gulf and into Florida, the lee of the Rockies again, and back here where this little system is in Nebraska and Kansas, could see thunderstorms fire up there as well. That will all again move east and south and dissipate over time. This little disturbance will hold together potentially and migrate in through the area of Iowa and into Michigan as we approach Saturday morning. So that's what's going on the next couple of days. That's your severe weather threat. But the big story is going to be the heat. And then maybe the big story after that is going to be another fall-like cool down for some. We're going to look at that right now in our weekend forecast. Stay inside if you're sensitive to air quality, particularly up here in the north. Look at this bad smoke, big smoke coming in out of Canada from these wildfires that are still burning. This is the smoke map. That front, as it goes by, winds are going to shift out of the north, and that smoke comes into Minnesota, it comes into Wisconsin, eventually shows up in Michigan over the next couple of days, rotates back around. We're not going to get any relief from that with winds coming here out of the north behind that front. Eventually things will dissipate and move on off to the east a bit, but over the next couple of days it's going to be smoke in the air up here. So bad breathing up there. It's going to be hot everywhere else. Look at this. Heat advisories up, extreme heat warnings up and down the Mississippi River. It's very, very, very humid out here. Heat indexes are going up into the 100s, and it will persist for several days. Heat advisories up here in the northeast. There are your air quality alerts for smoke up here in Minnesota, Wisconsin. Flash flooding is a possibility where heavy rain continues to train over the same areas that have seen a lot of rain. So watch out for that little bit of red flag activity out here where it's windy and dry in Oregon and California. Look at this. This is the heat risk map. This is where we're expecting impacts to be major, moderate, extreme, minor, what have you. The colors, obviously the more aggressive, deep colors mean more aggressive heat, and it's going to persist. Look at this. So this is this afternoon. Tomorrow, Friday, heat persists, so moderate to at least moderate to major impacts everywhere along the Mississippi Valley, Great Lakes east, builds into the northeast over time. It kind of abates a little bit up there, but we're starting to see that ridge center as it moves over into the southeast and parks right here. It sets up shop, the air becomes stale, and we start to see extreme heat problems as we get on in toward Sunday. Okay, look at this, extreme. This is heat index values well into the 100s, air temperatures around 100 as well. That doesn't abate at all. It builds through the plains, eastern plains, and the Mississippi Valley into the Great Lakes. As we get on into Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, we finally start to see some light at the end of the tunnel across the northern section. Southeast still cooking down here in the heat cooker, folks. Here is the moisture content in the atmosphere starting out here on Thursday. As we go through the weekend, we see a little bit of dry air in here between these red areas, and so that's good. Remember, reds and yellows very, very high, and purples really high moisture content, browns and blues and some of the green's not as bad, but that all that dry air will fill in as we go on into Friday, Saturday. A little bit of dry air poking back in New England's going to feel good again up there, I guess, but it's still going to be kind of warm. But look at this. Big reds and yellows all across the country in the east come Sunday and Monday and Tuesday. That's why the heat indexes are going up, because it's so much tropical air here in the eastern and southern U.S. And that will look at what happens though. Look at this. We start to get a little bit of a push of drier air. Why is that? We're going to look at that here in the long range in just a second. Check out the air temperatures as we go on through the next couple of days. Thursday, 90s, plenty of 80s and 90s along the East Coast, upper 90s across the southern plains, and hundreds in the desert Southwest, upper 90s, mid 90s back in the interior Northeast, and 80s everywhere else. It is going to be warming up, 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 up. Look at these 90s getting in here, hundreds in the plains, hundreds in the desert Southwest. There we go, hundreds back in here, showing up in Texas and up through the plains, hundreds in the Southeast as we get into Saturday. And finally, Sunday, look at this, hundreds just popping up here, and that will get hotter and hotter, and that heat will stick around over the next even few days. We go into Monday, hundreds and hundreds in the plains. It's going to be a heat wave that we will not soon forget, and we will wish that would go away. But as we get on out into Tuesday and Wednesday, look what happens. We're starting to see some legitimate cool air out of Canada push in, probably bringing some wildfire smoke again. But look at all this heat in the south and up in the interior northwest. That's what's going to happen as we get on through the next few days. Looking at the actual precipitation, Saturday afternoon, we're seeing showers move through with that complex that persists overnight Friday. It gets up into the Great Lakes Saturday morning. As we go on into Saturday afternoon around 2 o'clock East Coast time, we see plenty of showers in the Midwest and Great Lakes, showers firing over Louisiana with some tropical moisture down there, and that will continue to build over the Mississippi Valley and Ohio Valley and parts of the South as we get to Saturday evening, but then things will taper off Sunday overnight, Saturday night into Sunday morning, and then we'll see another round of activity begin to build through Sunday morning, eastern Great Lakes into the New England area, pushing in there as we get on into Saturday afternoon. And really, this is the trouble spot for, I said Saturday, I meant Sunday afternoon. Look at all of this rain coming in here to New England to wash out your Sunday afternoon plans. But everybody else, just the exception of a few scattered showers and thunderstorms through the Mississippi Valley and into the northwest, we're not really looking at a big washout for Sunday. Could see a few complexes work into the northern plains in terms of severe weather as we get into Sunday evening. But that's your weekend forecast, folks. Now we're going to take a look at the long range, wrap it up with the space weather and geological update too. So bad news to start, but perhaps good news to finish. Check this out. Here's our pattern. We've been watching this pattern evolve. And there's our ridge in the east. This is a Sunday, so watch this. That ridge is really maximizing its intensity over here. 597 decameter ridge over the south, Sunday into Monday. But look what happens over time. It retrogrades back toward the central portion of the country. That doesn't mean it's going to get cool in the south immediately. It's going to take some time for that to happen. But as we go out in time, mid next week toward Thursday and Friday, that ridge center starts to build. We get this almost positive P&A pattern as we get on out here in time. There's another big trough working into the northeast toward the end of next week. That is going to bring fall-like conditions, drier air, cooler air back in for you all out there. Still hanging on to a little bit of troughing along the west coast next weekend. But after that, look at this ridge really retrograde back to the west, puts a trough all the way up and down the east coast. And that gets us in sort of this positive P&A pattern. Remember, positive P&A is ridging out here along the west coast and troughing along the east coast. In the wintertime, that matters a lot for cool air and storminess in the east, potentially winter storms. But we get on out here into way out in La La Land, about 2 weeks out. I've told you before, as the farther back that ridge retrogrades to the west, the more it's going to warm up the west, and the more it's going to cool down the east. And you can see this big trough here now centered over the east. That will keep it cooler and stormier in the east as well. More showers and thunderstorms if this comes to fruition. And there is support for this, and it looks like it potentially will be. Here are your 850 millibar temperatures. Temperatures about a mile off the ground. Look at this. As we get on into late next week, a legitimate push of cool air comes into the northern portion of the country, into the northeast. That front will sink south and really get on into the mid-south and southeast too, bring in some cooler weather as we get on into beyond next weekend. So we've got about a week, 10 days of heat to go through in the south, and then that will get crushed down with this push of cooler air, which sort of lingers around. If that trough ridge stays out in the west, it will provide an avenue for cooler weather out of Canada to move into the eastern sections. It will push that humidity value, those humidity values down as well. The Climate Prediction Center, here is their July the 31st through August the 6th outlook. Look at this, below normal in the north and east, with normal across the midsection of the country, above with ridging up in Canada and the northwest, and above normal across the southern tier, above in Alaska and Hawaii. And temperature or the precipitation responds as well, with a troughing in the east. We're going to see potentially additional chances for rain and thunderstorms, particularly in the southeast near the axis of the best moisture, and also with systems rotating around the apex of that ridge, could see a little bit of above normal signal in the northwest through the nation's midsection. And there we have Alaska kind of mixed and Hawaii about normal. And that's it for the long range. It's got some hope, at least, that we're watching for cooler air. Hopefully that will happen. In the meantime, let's take a look and see what's going on upstairs and downstairs. Happy New Moon Day, folks. That's today, but right now we've got minor geomagnetic storm conditions that we've been oscillating back and forth through as a coronal hole stream is hit. We've got a minor CME headed toward us, so that could push us back into minor geomagnetic storm conditions. We see these yellows here on the KP index chart. There's your sun, there's the coronagraph. Look at that, it looks like the moon going through the coronagraph there. That's kind of fun. Sunspots, not too much complexity with any of these. We've got several turning toward us, so we're going to watch the evolution of these, but right now I'm not expecting anything major in the next day or two in terms of solar flaring and CME ejections from the sun, so probably not going to be all that great for aurora viewing. But what is good for viewing is the night sky. It's not contaminated by moonlight, so you can get out there and check out those Perseids and see if you see any fireballs shooting through the sky. In the meantime, we had an Indonesian earthquake way down deep, so not probably a lot of people felt that, but that's about all that's going on the earthquake front. Nothing happening here in the States. And there are our there's our volcano map for the Ring of Fire out here in the Pacific. And look, Aihe is gone. So now we only have 3 areas of concern: Spur, Great Sitkin, and Kilauea. So we're watching those. There is your moon. We're down at a 0.2%. I'm calling that 0%, folks. New moon today, new moon going back to a full moon, August the 9th, right around the peak of those Perseids, unfortunately. And the countdown to fall is on 60 days until calendar fall. I am so ready for it, folks. I say that every day, but I am. And that's the show for today. Hope it's been informative to you. Hope you have a good day out there this afternoon. Brings us to the end of our show and the answer to today's weather IQ question. The question was, what type of weather pattern often brings, or weather system brings, clear skies and cooler temperatures during the fall? Low pressure, barometric filament, cold front, mesoscale vortex, and I bet you guessed the answer correctly. I left it out here in my list of answers. It is, of course, a cold front. Cold fronts come out of the north winds below, the air dries out, clear skies follow the cold front. It could be windy and cloudy ahead of that cold front, even have some showers, but then the temperature drops, the humidity drops. You get that little bit of north wind behind the front, and the leaves start to come off the trees. Man, that feels good. We'll start to see that late in August and into September. That's when we'll feel our first cold fronts, particularly across the north. Looking forward to it, folks. And I'm looking forward to seeing you back again tomorrow for our Friday edition of the show. I hope you have a wonderful Thursday afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me. And as I said before, if you know anybody that likes weather, send them over here and have them check us out. Growing and happy to provide great weather information to you. So hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you back tomorrow. Take care, folks.